So I have not been having the best luck with quilting lately. I did get my walking foot in, and I started doing a little quilting on this quilt just the other day, and at first it worked beautifully, and then a little bit later it broke. This little piece came off the little grabber here, and it was not working properly. I did stitch all the quilting that I was going to do, or most of it, in the black area, and decided later it looked terrible, and so I pulled that all out last night. So now I am gonna need to order another walking foot, and so I'm kind of stuck again on quilting, but I do have piecing because I can work on the gnome quilt, which is apparently what I'm going to be working on today. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Okay, it is the 22nd of December. Thank you to Aurora Sewing Center. I have my new Bernina walking foot, and I'm very excited. I have the little quilt right here that needs to be finished, and I have the gnome quilt that needs to be finished, and I want to have it hanging up before Christmas. I don't have a lot of time. Okay, so now I'm able to work on my quilting on the little quilt with my new walking foot. I have to say, that has been a huge improvement. It is wider than either of the two walking foots I had before, much more stable. It seems to work much smoother. So it's been a delight to use it. So for marking my quilting on this, I actually used some of my old 1/4-inch quilting tape that I had from days when I used to do hand quilting. It's not very sticky. It was kind of difficult to use because it's really, really old, but I was able to make it work. And then I would just use a ruler and line up where my stitching was supposed to go and where the lines would intersect. I had to keep stopping and, replacing tape, but it worked fine, and I actually really like how it came out. I like the design that I did. I'm not sure, you can kind of see from the tape, it's kind of hard to see the actual stitching. A little bit challenging getting around the buttons, but I managed. And then here I'm laying out binding strips. Now, I have several seams. I like to lay my binding out along the quilt, doing it just like I would do it if I was actually stitching it, so that I can check and see where the corners are going to come out and make sure the seam, like that one's pretty close, I want to make sure that seam is not going to be right on the corner, because that would be really tricky. So sometimes I'll lay it out and then I'll have to adjust it a little bit one way or another to make it work. But this one actually I got it laid out, and there we are, and I'm going to cut right there, and we'll make that join there. So that'll be the binding. This is for hanging strips. Instead of doing one long sleeve, I'm just doing 4 small kind of loops. I make a strip, I fold it in half, wrong sides together, and stitch it. Then I'm going to press it open, and with the seam down the middle, like I've done on those right there. Then it's time to turn them out. When you turn them, you want to be careful to hang on to that end, because I did these chain stitched, so there's no back stitching to hold it. And if you don't hold that carefully as you go to turn it, then you're going to end up having stitches starting to pop out, which I did originally. That's how I know. So this one I did, I hung on to the end carefully, and when I got all the way turned out, then it's still all nice and stitched all the way up to the end, as opposed to that one there where there's a little bit of a flap. And then I pressed them not quite in half. I went 1/2 inch from the top. And that's so when I put these on the back of the quilt, which I just kind of lay them out, and you can eyeball them or you can measure. I think I mostly eyeballed and then just kind of measured to say, yeah, these are close enough. So then you put the shorter side towards the quilt and you bring the other end to meet it, and that gives you kind of a little bump up, a little pleat, and that gives room for whatever hanging rod you have going through. So I get these all laid out, pin them on, and I'm doing it as I'm doing the binding so that it will be stitched into the binding. You could do it even afterwards, you just have to hand stitch all the way around it. And then double check to make sure you actually have it, the top is the right direction. Be a real bummer to get all those stitched on there and then find out that you're doing it wrong. And then once I have the binding on there, you can see how that's going to fold over. And then I will hand stitch around the side and the bottom, and then up the other side for each of those little loops.
I am happy to report that I got my little handwork project done in time for Christmas. Keith didn't get it on our last video. I got it done just after he finished the video, but I was able to finish that. I do love it, and I love how it turned out, and I'm so happy I finished it.
Unfortunately, I can't say the same about my gnome quilt. This is how it sat for more than a week. It's probably been a week and a half now. I'm afraid that over the Christmas holidays, my dad passed away, and we spent the last week or two of the year, or 3, mostly at my parents' house. So unfortunately, this didn't get finished. I may try to see if I can get enough of the quilting done to put the binding on it, and then I guess you'll see it next year. I'll try to put it up. If I get it finished, I will show it so that you can see it finished, but I'm afraid right now that's where it sits. Dad was originally given 3 to 6 months when he was first diagnosed. We are grateful that he was given more than 3 years and able to meet us on our big trip at the Creation Museum and Ark Encounter. It was special to be able to share that with my mom and dad. When my dad passed, my dear friend Julie sent a message saying, "Praise God for the blessed hope we have of a home in heaven, sharing eternity with him and our loved ones. He is now home and whole." So we don't say goodbye. We say, "See you later, Dad."